Alright, this is going to be a candid, unscripted video of me telling you how it feels to be turning 30 and to be going through unemployment, financial struggles, and trying to navigate this really crazy job market and strange, uncertain economic times. I'm currently 29 years old. I'm turning 30 next month, and I am in a worse financial situation than I was when I was 18 years old. And typically, when you're 18, you're broke, or you're a student, you're working an entry level part time job, and you're just finding out what you want to do with your life. And I think at 30, you should have at least a handful of years of experience, and you should be either mid or senior level in whatever career path you have chosen. And when I got my first job, my first real job at 21 years old, in a corporate job, working in e-commerce and doing tech work, um, I thought by this age I would be in a better position, probably managing people, leading projects, and just having a steady salary with a hunk of emergency funds. But unfortunately, as we all know, there was a nosedive with the white collar job market. Some people survived, while most people lost their jobs, had to get lower paying jobs, or just straight up freelance or start working for food delivery, Uber, Lyft, you name it. Um, and for me, I've had to survive off of freelancing. I had to survive off of living at home with my parents because I don't live at my own place because it's impossible in my situation. Um, and just finding temporary work wherever I can. And I think um, a lot of people are feeling this way because I'm seeing a lot of videos just like this one that I am making now surfacing all over YouTube every single month. But on top of that, the numbers that are being released by the Labor Department, the subreddits on Reddit, the headlines I see on the news, everyone's saying this is the toughest job market for fresh graduates in almost a whole decade, referencing the 2008 recession, the Great Recession we had in 2008. Apparently, the layoffs are almost at that same level that we had in 2008 when I was just a kid. But now I'm an adult turning 30, and we're all entering this time where it feels like we're in another recession. And I think the term recession is sort of irrelevant now because the definition keeps changing. People keep pulling numbers to contradict other numbers. And at the end of the day, I think the stock market doesn't reflect people like you and me. I think what's more relevant than the stock market numbers are the employment rate, the average salary, and the barrier to entry for college graduates, because that's a strong indicator of how the actual job market's doing. Also, we live in a time where it's harder to define a recession, and it's harder to keep track of the actual real employment. Before it was easier because there was less vague gig work like Uber, Lyft, Postmates, all of that. There was less sort of mainstream freelancing work. That was sort of niche back then. Now with all these apps like TaskRabbit, Uber Eats, Lyft, Postmates, whatever you name it, all the 1,000 apps we have, technically that's employment. So if you make like $100 there, you can't claim you're unemployed because you're freelancing. You're working a gig work. Things like Amazon Flex, all of those sort of little low paying gig jobs skew the numbers differently than they did before all these tech giants started offering these slave labor gigs. So that's a new thing that we have to account for today than we did in 2008. So the fact that the numbers, when they don't really define these things, and the numbers still look bad. If you think about it, the numbers might actually be worse. The unemployment might actually be higher than it says. Technically, you could have 12 million people be employed, but the question is, are those 12 million people making at least 25,000 a year, or did they make 1,000 for the whole year? Did those people make up to just $5,000 because they drove a few lifts here, delivered a pizza there, did Amazon Flex for a week and realized they hated it? They don't have health insurance, and they're literally going to be homeless. But technically, people like those are also employed. So that's a new generation we live in, and it's a new factor that the government has not established. We're working on old systems that don't account for new, like, a new environments that we live in. Anyways, that's just a quick thought. What I wanted to talk about is just how it feels to be unemployed and looking for work turning 30. So when I got my first job, I was getting paid $15 an hour. And I was driving an hour a day to work, but it was my first job. I was young and excited. And I knew that this is a stepping stone to something amazing. That I could eventually gain skills, be experienced, and be effective in my career. And long story short, a few jobs later, I was that person. But because of the tech layoffs, I'm back at zero. This is a long story short. I'm not going to walk you through it. But yes, I'm a statistic. Started my career, had a good foundation. Foundation got swept under me just like everyone else. And now I need to figure out what to do. And everyone has their own solutions to where we should navigate to. I don't want to become an AI engineer. I've done my research. At a glance, I realize what it takes. It takes a lot of passion, a lot of work, and I think I've said this in a previous video. It's not for me. So, just a quick insight to what I think I want to do is I'm gonna get into just entry level labor. Doing housekeeping, sanitization, maybe learn how to use tools to help with maintenance around a facility. I have a referral that could get me into healthcare. So that's my next step. And hopefully it's a good path to something more stable where I don't have to slave away just to get an interview. And I think everyone is going that route because not everyone is, the next Mark Zuckerberg or the next AI engineer that will be offered $100 million, compensation package. We're not all at that level. This is a stressful time. And I consider myself to be someone who's able to navigate stressful situations and have a strong mindset. But I see a lot of people on the internet, they're I think they're breaking down. I think it's getting to them and I feel it. How you could sense sort of this overall aura coming off of society when there's people posting about certain things and there's trending headlines. The reason why people post about certain things in a certain way and the reason why certain topics are trending is because people click on it. The reason why people click on it is because they feel a certain way. So if you see all these headlines talking about the job market, how college graduates are, taking jobs at fast food with computer science degrees, and then you have people on Reddit, venting about how they're losing their homes and they can't support their families. I think these are really important data points that you could gather to get a sense of what's going on in the world. And you might claim it's doom and gloom, but I think, there's some truth to, pulling data from these sources. So yeah, that's just how I feel. But how I'm navigating things is one, it's like when I was doing well, I was going out a lot more. I felt like, life is more enthusiastic. You're more positive when you're able to invest in recreational activities like traveling or going out, or even just simple things like investing in your hobbies, like upgrading your computer, or upgrading, or like investing in classes. Like, let's just say you like rock climbing, and there's a rock climbing event. You can invest in those things. You want to join a course, like a real life course on yoga. You want to join a yoga class. You could afford to do that. But I had to scale back, and the only thing I could do is work out and continue to try and find work. Um, and when you scale back this way, and you stop doing things, you stop going out, you stop watching all these movies, um, life sort of narrows down into just a few things that you can do. And for me, that's just been researching the job market, creating content on this YouTube channel, making sure my physical and mental health is in check, and just trying to plan for the future and survive in the present. And that's basically it. I haven't seen any of the new Marvel movies. I haven't seen Superman. I haven't seen Fantastic Four. I haven't seen all those movies, even though I wanted to. A ticket to a movie these days is like $25. And without any income, that's not really a smart thing to do. So yeah, at 30 years old, I have to sacrifice not seeing a simple movie. But that's just where I am. Where, it's a great example of, how life goes up and down. It's not just a steady rise. It's like you might be at a peak here, and then all of a sudden, you nosedive, you get a little up, you nosedive even deeper, and then hopefully you skyrocket more, and then you find a place where you could be steady, in a higher place. It's definitely a mind game, because a few years ago, I could book a concert ticket that was worth $250, buy new shoes that were like $200, and not really stress out about it because I had a steady income. And I was younger, I was more naive, and yet I was capable of doing more with my life. But now that I'm leaving my 20s and going into my 30s, because of the job market, because of the competitiveness, I don't have work, and I can't do the same things that I wanted to do back then. And I think a lot of people can't handle this mental stress, or this mental, like, game that you play with yourself. Um, it's psychologically difficult for some people. For me, it's okay because I've gone from, starting from rock bottom to getting into a peak of my life to getting down and then going up. So this is just a down, and then there will be another up. But for some people, they crash. They can't handle it. They're like, I made $100,000 like 2 years ago. Now I can't even get $25 an hour. And then they go into deep depression and they just disappear. But I think in life, at the end of the day, if you're watching this video because you're going through something similar, your salary doesn't define who you are. And your salary is never going to be consistent. You have to realize that it might fluctuate sometimes. And it's important that you are someone that is able to navigate these situations, because that's what life is about. Life is about being strong enough to handle curveballs when it comes your way. And nothing's ever perfect. Sometimes in life we reach a level where we have one or two things in check, but one thing is neglected. For example, right now my health is pretty good. I get enough sleep. I'm mentally healthy. I exercise often. But looking back, when I was working a lot, I was working like 50 hours a week. I had really good money, and I had a good job, but I was mentally not good. I was sacrificing my sleep, and I was gaining weight. I was not healthy, so it was like, you never have everything in order. So just because your job isn't in order, just because your salary isn't in order, you can focus on other things. There's an opportunity to work on other things while your salary isn't up to your standard. Um, but yeah, this is a huge mental game. It's a huge mental game for all of us in this situation. Um, and I think there's a lot of uncertainty that's causing all of this. And I feel bad for the younger generation, like the 20-year-olds that are looking for work, because I was fortunate enough that when I was 21, I had zero experience, but I just took some courses and some classes, and um, I built up a portfolio to where I could I kicked off my career with just minimal experience at 20 years old. And now at 20, like if I was 20 now, I don't know what I would be doing. So I have empathy for the younger generation that's entering the job market. And then I think we all really hate CEOs right now. I think CEOs need, like, I don't know what they need, but the CEOs right now in 2025 need Jesus. I'm not even religious, but I think they need Jesus. Anyways, that's how I'm gonna end this video. Let me know below if you're hitting your 30s and you feel this way. If you're struggling similar with the job market, and have you been finding like really crappy freelance gigs just to pay your bills? Share your experiences in the comments, and maybe I'll respond to them. Anyways, was just a quick, candid, unedited little vent to share my experience. But thanks for watching, and subscribe, because I like sharing these stories with everyone in the world. All right.